Okay, here we are, I'm not sure what group number we are, but I'm going to start talking about physical class with grade band pre-K through second. Um, so as far as the learning environment, I thought it was a very tidy physical space. The kids were in their little desks, kind of in pods. Four. She knew all their names very well. I liked that. She was very good. She would always ask questions and then ask follow-up questions for clarification. I also noted she was pretty good about reflecting back the answers. Um, she had quite a bit of enthusiasm. I thought when she was talking about animal groups, and then she was pretty good at giving attention to each group. Um, had moments when she was using genuine praise or praise that sounded genuine. Um, Also would have time in the routine to check on students or check in on students that were struggling. She also had a lot of notes throughout her video where kind of she showed some self-awareness and had some for herself. So I thought that was good. Um, okay, and then her procedure, I thought she had a good procedure. She talked about the project, then would show them a video. Then they had their whiteboard activity with their markers, and the kids all seemed to respond very well to that and were engaged. Where they had to just write the words down as fast as they could, or the type of animal that she was asking for. I also liked how she included all the students or asking for questions. She would use the popsicle sticks with the child's name on them, so you kind of get everyone involved. They also reviewed group norms when before they broke into their or before they started working in their groups. They just talked about respecting each other and that no one was the boss of their group, which was a good reminder for this age group. Then they had the table card with the words in a group. Or they had the teacher-led animal cards. So overall, yeah, I liked her procedures, and the overall climate was good too. It was she seemed to be kind of almost the whole strict but fair. So she was kind of in that zone.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's kind of was all my.
I agree with a lot that you said. Yeah, she was very engaging. I like the use of like the projector. So like not only did she use like the screen to show pictures, but she also actually wrote the question on the chalkboard. No, don't know if you noticed that. So she had like different methods for them to like visually see what she was teaching. Um, Something that I did also like about it was she made it okay to make mistakes. So when the student she told them, I remember she said this in the video, she said it's okay if you don't know, because if you don't know the answer, you're helping the other students. So I thought that was really good. um Recommendations that I would give, because I overall I think she did really well. The students were engaged. They were actually raising their hand, right? They weren't just, it's for being such young students, they weren't just yelling out the answers. Like they already knew that the expectation was to raise their hand, and like what she would say, like, like the students would, like they weren't really speaking out or being loud. The only thing, and I don't know, because I've never really worked with that young of students. um I just felt like her tone was a bit harsh at times. I don't know if you kind of noticed that, where it was a little bit aggressive at times, and like sometimes she would also be like, "Hey, shh," like the thing. I don't know. Like that was like the one thing that I was kind of like, I just didn't like her tone very much. It was a little bit too strict for me.
Yeah, she was a little harsh. I would say we should use more positive reinforcement and kind of give things to the children that just
Hmm.
are doing what she wants instead of the shushing. Because she kind of ruled with a bit of an iron fist, kind of. That's an exaggeration, but she was kind of strict.
Yeah. But overall, I think she did a great job of being clear and concise on the instructions that she was giving.
Mhm.
Um,
And it really
and
moved right
yeah,
along.
the students were pretty engaged.
Mhm.
Move on over to the second video. So that one was the 9th through 12th online video lesson, which I think was very different from the physical classroom environment and climate. Because this teacher, although he does check in with students to see how they're doing, I just feel like their presence wasn't as strong as the physical classroom, and it is like a lot more difficult to engage students through the online classes, especially because the students can be distracted with so many other things. And I feel like that's exactly what we saw in this video was the students weren't very present, they were not engaged. You know, when the teacher would be like, oh, you know, hey, who, like he would ask a question, and then he would wait like too long for an answer. So he'd be like, all right, who has the answer to this question? And then he'd wait, and then it'd be like a few minutes later. And then it's like he was just giving them too much time to not respond instead of focusing more like on cold calls, like, hey, and then addressing them by name. Hey, what do you think of this? Right. Um, and it's just like you can tell that there's no close relationship or communication with the students. He doesn't really express the importance of having the camera on and showing their face, because although some students have the camera on, honestly you could only see like part of their head, so they weren't really engaged at all. I didn't see any energy in that classroom. And the teacher was like the only voice that was actually heard throughout, so he wasn't facilitating in a very productive way. um, and I just don't think that it was meeting the students' needs. So how would we recommend for him to do a better job next time?
Yeah, just kind of you you mentioned just calling on students by name and not waiting so long and just like wasting that time. It's harder on online, but yeah, and just having a better routine and sticking to it, and maybe starting production or something like that, some sort of activity. And sorry, someone. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I just feel like the expectations were not made clear. I just feel like the teacher didn't have good management skills in saying what he expected from them, why it was important for them to be on camera. He wasn't really even having lessons that were like helping students connect with each other. And I think like he needed to build that community with the students, having them talk to each other instead of just like responding to questions. Even as he shared the screen, which was a good part. So I think that's where the physical and the online classes were similar, and it's like they both had visuals for the students instead of just lecturing in front of the class. Um, but in the online class, the students weren't even looking at their screen, or they weren't showing that they were actually looking at the screen and following along, right?
yeah,
So nobody was really eager. You would see like the students were very eager in the pre-K through second physical class. They were eager to like raise their hand, like every time she'd ask a question, like you would see hands go up. But in the online class, no one really felt like um, participating,
interested. Yeah, just
and
bump up.
not sure if it's
Yeah, and just yeah, I think it's a good idea to collaborate more, and just focus with projects and stuff like that.
and then building that community and like understanding that like that, because in the last VC we had talked about like respect, so like respecting each other in the way that they're going to be to each other. So when once someone's speaking, yeah, they're not talking over them, but you also have to be actively listening and showing that you're actively listening.
Mhm.
Those are kind of the recommendations that I had for the online, just having different activities and not just lecturing the entire time.
Yeah. All right.